new course Epigenetics in Human Health and Diseases. My name is Kulwant Singh and I am an assistant professor in Stem Cell Research Center. So over the course of 5 or 6 classes, we are going to discuss several important basic and basic aspects of the epigenetics, how the in which we will cover what is the epigenome and what kind of the different epigenetic modifications are known till now, and how the epigenetic mechanisms control the gene expression program. So gene expression program during normal developmental process, and how alteration in these mechanisms lead to the diseases like cancers, etc. And in the final classes, we will in the final class we will discuss what are the different tools through which you can study the epigenetic mechanisms. So before going in the epigenetics, we need to know what is the genetics. So if you go to the traditional concept of the genetics, in which it has been shown that if you get a change in your DNA, if you got suppose a mutation in your DNA, then this mutation that is shown in this star here, this mutation can give you a phenotype. Suppose if this gene shown in this shown in this slide is double-stranded DNA, and if you got a mutation in this, it might have a good or bad effect on the phenotype of this. So this is the classical concept that any change in the DNA sequence results in the change in the phenotype. So this concept is basically supported by the Mendel and the Darwin basically, and but later on, and at the same time, when Lamarck proposed his theory of uh, uh, inheritance of the acquired character, he was very badly criticized. But the epigenetics, for example, one example you can see here is our human genome. Each and every cell of our body of a human has approximately 2 meter long same DNA, same DNA, but we have 206 different types of the cells. So how it is possible if the DNA sequence is the same and it is encoding the same mRNA, same protein, then how we have a 206 different kind of the cells? And because of and if the DNA sequence is same, then we should have a same phenotype. Our body should made of the same cells, one kind of the cells, but we have the 206 different types of the cells with same DNA sequence, and this 206 206 different types of the cells are coming from the same DNA sequence because of the epigenetics mechanism. So for example, if a mutation occurs in the DNA sequence, it can have a phenotype, and generally it has a phenotype. But other than DNA sequence, there are mechanisms exist that can cause a phenotype, that can give a phenotype without changing the DNA sequence, and this is basically epigenetics. So if you compare the genetics from the epigenetics, you can see three parameters. For example, any change in the DNA sequence is very stable. But the epigenetic changes can be stable, can be unstable. It can be transferred from one cell to the progeny cells, from parent cell to the daughter cell. It cannot be. But if there is a change in the DNA sequence, it always goes to the progeny cells. Okay. Second thing is the genetic changes are always irreversible. Hello, am I audible to everyone? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir.
sir.
Yes, sir.
Yes,
Yes,
sir,
sir.
you
You
are
are
audible.
audible.
Yes, sir.
Is Sonakshi, she said that I'm not audible to her. So there might be some problem in her system. So I'm moving forward. Okay. So the genetic changes are stable, but the epigenetic changes may be stable or unstable. It might change because of the environmental change. Second parameter is genetic changes is irreversible. That means if you got a change in the DNA sequence, it cannot be changed naturally. Of course, artificially you can change, but it cannot be changed naturally. But epigenetic change, if epigenetics change can is completely reversible. If you got a epigenetic change like the histone acetylation, then distallase can work. If you got a histone methylation, then demethylases can work, something like that. So this epigenetics mechanisms has lots of the clinical relevance, because if any changes happens in the cell, it is reversible. It is always reversible. Third parameter is invariable. That means the same in all types of the cells. Like I said, is human genome is made from a human body is made from the 206 different types of the cells. All of them has the same DNA. So this is our genetics. But because of the epigenetics, we have 206 different types of the cells having same genomic DNA. So that means the epigenetic changes are variable. So overall, this slides, what I'm trying to convince with the help of this slide is what is the difference between the genetics and epigenetics. If you take a so if you take a if you draw an analogy from genetics and epigenetics, you can see this slide. Like in if you consider this book as our genetics, that means the DNA sequence, the sequence in our genome is, if you compare it with this book, then you so all you can randomly open all of them, right? But because the biological system is very much controlled, you need to have a system so that uh, so if you consider this image, that like the one that is shown above the epigenetics, it has lots of the bookmarks. So suppose if you want to open the page number 101, you can use this bookmark to open the page number 101 or any other page. So so overall, what these images are depicting, that if even your DNA is same, the book in both the images are same, but because of the epigenetics, you get the you can know that okay, which gene of human, which gene present on the DNA sequence, uh, you can determine the context in which a gene has to be expressed. So based on these information, the epigenetics are defined. So what is the epigenetics? What is the definition of a epigenetics? So the term word epigenetics is made from this is a Greek word, and it is literally, mm, you can divide it into epi and genetics. Epi means above, are over, and genetics means genome. So any information, any kind of the regulation of the genome above the DNA sequence is the epigenetics. So the first this a term epigenetics is coined by Conrad Whittington in 1940, and he defined the branch of the biology which study the uh, क्या है? Anyway, you can just study. Sorry. The branch of the biology which studies the causal interaction between the genes and their product which bring the phenotype in a human being. Later on, the Halliday has also defined this the situation in which changes in DNA methylation results in change in the gene activity. But current definition of the epigenetics is the study of uh, change in regulation of the gene activity and expression that are not dependent on the gene DNA sequence. That means any if there is a gene, okay, and it is making up a mRNA and a protein, okay, so ideally the expression of the gene is controlled through the DNA sequence, but epigenetic mechanism can determine how many molecule of this gene could be synthesized at a time. So this is basically the definition of the epigenetics. So if you see the example of the epigenetics, you can see this slide here. So this is called as copycat, and these are cloned cat. So this little baby cat is cloned from this cat. Even their genome is identical. There is no change in the DNA sequence of these two, but the coat color of this cat is different from this. That means there are environmental factors that that alters the expression of the genes. Even the genome is identical. For example, if another example you can see here is the homozygotic twins. So these twins are coming from the same zygote, but even they all are similar, but their color is different. And this is because of the epigenetic mechanism. So now we discuss about the what are the pitch for the epigenetics where whole mechanisms happen. And basically the pitch for the epigenetic is chromatin. Chromatin is present inside the nucleus. Okay, and basically chromatin is made from the DNA and histone protein. If you consider, I don't know. So, like I said earlier, also that human genome, human DNA. So each and every cells our body has a 2 meter long DNA, double-stranded DNA. Okay, and the radius of our nucleus is about 10 micrometer. So how will you package? How this 2 meter long DNA is packaged inside the tiny nucleus? Okay, and in order to package this 2 meter long DNA in this, like the small nucleus, the DNA has to be compact. And based on this information, like 2 meter long DNA, if we want to package a 2 meter long DNA in I think 20 micrometer 20 micrometer in a ball of the 20 micrometer perimeter, it has to compact at least by 10,000 times. So if you see this image and imagine if this DNA, the DNA is open and it is packaged in the genome, in the nucleus without any compaction, then nucleus will not have a space for the even any kind of the protein so that transcription can happen. It is so tightly packed. So how we can how this 2 meter long uh, DNA is packaged in the nucleus is through the interaction with the different protein. And this is basically the answer of the question, how the 2 meter long DNA is packaged inside the nucleus. And this is basically the nucleus surrounded the DNA that packages the nucleosomes makes the playground for the whole epigenetic mechanism. So if you see the different level of the compaction of the our double stranded DNA, you can see here at the bottom side the DNA is double stranded DNA. Okay, so at the in the second level you find that the DNA is interacting here with the nucleosomes. So nucleosomes is made from the 4 different kinds of the histones in a dimeric form. There is a H2A, H2B, S3, and H4. So and this further because this nucleosome interacts with each other, and you can see this kind of the image. You must have studied in your high school book the bead on a string model. Okay, so so because of this interaction between the DNA and the nucleosome, this bead this structure looks like a bead on a string. This structure further interact with each other and form a complex that is 30 nanometer fiber, and this is basically because of the short range internucleosome interaction that causes this kind of the structure. Further packaging of the this chromatin happens through the interaction with the linker histones, and finally there are intermolecular interaction between these group of the nucleosomes, and you got a chromonema fiber, like the long range fiber interaction. And because of this kind of the protein DNA interaction, we got the it is possible that we can package 2 meter long DNA in a tiny nucleus. So now we talk about the what are the different kind of the chromatin structure. So the chromatin structure can be a primary, secondary, and tertiary. So the linear arrangement of the nucleosome on the DNA that you can see is a 29S here. This is basically the primary structure. The secondary structure, nucleosomes interacts with each other and forms a structure like this, and this is called as secondary structure. The group of the nucleosomes again interact with each other and forms the compact structure, and this is basically the tertiary structure of the our genome. So this is a electron microscopy structure where you can see that the bead. This is basically the bead and string model where DNA. These dots are the nucleosomes, and the structure that you can see here is the DNA. So several nucleosomes are wrapped with the DNA. So the circular part in the bottom picture you can see here is basically the core histone, and the DNA that attaches one core histone with the other one nucleosomes with the other nucleosomes is called as linker DNA. So if you go in the more detail, So we know that the histones are basic protein and DNA is acidic. You can say it's acidic because of the phosphate group of the DNA that is open for the interaction. So if you see the structure of the one nucleosome, it is basically made from the 8 histone molecule, in which each types of the histone like H2A, H2B, H3, H4, they all present in a dimer. And DNA surrounds it in approximately 147 base pair. DNA surrounds this core histone in 1.7 turn. And and these are the basically the repeating unit of the chromatin. So when the one nucleus, second nucleus, third nucleus, fourth nucleus, it is like that. So it's a bead on a string model, and this is basically is the chromatin. So now the question is how the DNA interacts with the nucleosomes. So the first types of the interaction occurs through the charge neutralization. So the basic residues that are present in the histone, like the lysine and arginine, they interact with the negative charge, like the phosphate group of the DNA, and this is one type of the interaction. Second type of the interaction is the hydrophobic side chain. So second types of the interaction occurs between the side chains of the threonine, proline, valine, and isoleucine amino acids with the deoxyribose sugar. Third type of the interaction happens with the main chain amide with the phosphate of the oxygen. So these are the non-covalent interaction known to stabilize the interaction between the DNA and histone. So if you alter the any if you alter these interaction with any kind of the phenomena, you will lose the interaction between the histones and the DNA is compromised. So this was the basically the primary structure. What is the secondary structure? So you might have studied this solenoid fiber, how the solenoid fiber is made. So the secondary structure forms between the interaction of the nucleosome with the nucleosome. So this is the one nucleosome attached with the linker histone that is generally a H1 histone H1, and it forms a compact 30 nanometer size structure. And this is when several of these structure come in contact with each other, it forms this solenoid kind of the structure. This is basically the secondary structure of our gene, a genome. So how now with this slide I will explain how this nucleosome is packaged. Basically, this is in the nucleosome packaging. First, H1, H3 and H4 protein interacts with each other. It forms the H3 and H4 dimer. And then at the same time, H2A and H2B interacts with each other and it forms the H2A H2B dimer. Then these dimers interacts with each other, and then it forms the tetramer. And this yes. H3 and H4 dimer again interacts with each other to form the tetramer, and similarly H2A H2B interacts with H2A H2B comes and in contact with this tetramer, and this is the way a octamer is formed. You can see here is a small segment of the each histone molecules are free from the ink. and this is the one. These are the structure basically made the histone tears, and these histone tears are the major site for the epigenetic modifications. So through interaction of the so we know one thing is, if you have a genome, there could be, suppose if you have if if there is a gene present, it has to in a particular cell it has to express, or in particular cell it has to not express. So what is, how it is determined that a protein has to open, a protein has to express or not, a protein has to made or not. So it's all depend on the accessibility of the DNA. Basically, over the whole compaction process, what what nucleosome or histone protein does, it basically protect the DNA from the availability of it basically what is says it basically hide the DNA sequence so that other protein or RNA polymerase cannot bind, can bind or cannot bind to transcribe it the gene at a particular time. So, for example, you see is a euchromatin and heterochromatin. These are the two in terminal stage of a DNA of the chromatins. For example, so if euchromatin, in euchromatin you can, you know that it is open chromatin and transcription factor can bind and the genes are can be transcribed in this. So the euchromatin means it is less compact, so the DNA is available for the RNA polymerase to bind and the transcribe the genes. But in case of the heterochromatin, it is a compact state of the DNA. So it's not that the heterochromatin is not transcribed. There are low level of the transcription happens from the heterochromatin also, and basically it makes the centromere and so, okay. So heterochromatin could be two types: a constitutive type and a facultative type. Constitutive type is completely compact. That means and this kind of the constitutive heterochromatin make made the centromere and telomeric region of the chromosome. Like the facultative heterochromatin, it can express, it cannot express. So these mechanisms, this kind of the histone can be found in the transport progons or involved in the X chromosome inactivation that we discuss in more detail later on. So the euchromatin is transcriptionally permissive, permissive state of our chromatin, and heterochromatin is a non-permissive state of a non-permissive state of the heterochromatin. So mostly heterochromatin doesn't transcribe, but the euchromatin generally transcribe. So and the only reason is the DNA is available here for the transcription. If you see, this is a crystal structure of the crystal structure of the DNA with the histone, and this is a RNA polymerase 2. Okay. So if your DNA is available, the RNA polymerase can bind here and it start transcription. But if this DNA is, if this DNA is not bound with the sorry, if this DNA is bound with the histone, then RNA polymerase cannot transcribe this part of the DNA. That means the open DNA is required for the transcription. So if you take a close look here, so this white color in this image, the white color small beads are saying the DNA, this one, and the red, yellow, and the green, these ones are the different kind of the histone. So if this DNA is bound by the histone, this DNA is not accessible for the RNA polymerase to perform transcription reaction. So if you compare here, I tried to compare the genome of the prokaryote and eukaryote. So because we, we know that the prokaryotic genome doesn't have the histone, so it is open DNA. So why it is a open DNA in prokaryotic? Because there's this systems, this prokaryotic system is relatively simpler, and the control on the gene expression is based on the environmental condition. Okay, so if because the DNA is open here, then the open DNA can be bound by the RNA polymerase and transcription is easy here. But in case of the eukaryotic system, it is bound by the histone, and because of this histone binding, the polymerase, this DNA sequence is not available to the polymerase to bind because of the histone. In order to start transcription on the in the eukaryotic system, the DNA sequence has to be available, and here is the epigenetic phenomena works to open it. So there are these are the major components of the uh, of the epigenetics mechanism that I'm showing here is. So now so we know that we need to transcribe in order to transcribe a gene. In the case of the eukaryote, you have to so double stranded DNA has to be available. Okay, and how epigenetics mechanism make it available for the RNA polymerase, this is what we are going to discuss. So basically epigenetics mechanisms involve the histone modification, non-coding RNA, and the DNA methylation, and these are controlled by the environmental factor that mediates the gene expression program in a particular type of the cell at a particular time. So DNA can be available, cannot be available. So if it is available, it is always going to be in the euchromatin state. If it is not available, mostly it is going to be in a heterochromatin state. So here the DNA is available through DNA is available for the transcription. Okay, and here the DNA is not available for the transcription because of the compact histone, a compact interaction between the histone. So these are the two active or repressed state of a gene. So conceptually, the epigenetics mechanisms involve three different kind of the proteins. Those are called as readers, writers, and erasers. So if you consider the writer, so what is the mean of the writer? Writer is the enzyme that add a particular histone mark on the either on the DNA or on the histone. That uh, again I will say is a enzyme that add the histone modification or the DNA modification on a gene is called as a writer. This this so you can see in the left down in the left side image, you can see this is the epigenetic writer can mediate the phosphorylation, it can mediate the methylation, it can be mediate the acetylation of the histone tails. Okay, this modification can be recognized by some protein. Those are, and these proteins have basically a special kind of the domain that is called as bromodomain, chromodomain, or Tudor domain. They recognize this kind of the modification, and this modification and this kind of the epigenetic enzymes are called as epigenetic readers. The third kind of the protein family that erase this, that remove this kind of the histone marks, and they are basically uh, uh, like the phosphatases that can remove the phosphate group. like demethylases can remove the methyl group, and deacetylases that can remove the acetyl group, and these are basically makes the class of the protein that is called as eraser, like HDAC or histone demethylases. So in these are these so writer, reader, and erasers are the major player that play very important role in mediating all the epigenetic phenomena. So uh, uh, if you see this slide, there are so many different kind of the phenomenon that is regulated by the epigenetic enzyme. For example, DNA methylation is made by DNMT bivalent chromatin. They this kind of the gene has both kind of the mark, that is activation or repression. We will discuss in detail. So this polycam silencing proteins, that trithorax enhancer promoter communication, enhancer function, epigenomic signature, blah blah. So different, these are the several different types of the mechanisms that regulates the different kind of the epigenetic phenomena. So we will discuss here first. um, First signature, epigenetic signature that we discuss here is the DNA methylation. So we know that the DNA is made from the four different types of the bases: adenine, guanine, thymine, and cytosine. So DNA methylation, at fifth carbon of the cytosine, a methyl group is added by the enzyme that is called as DNA methyltransferase. So the cytosine is now 5-methyl cytosines, and this process. In this process, S-adenosyl methionine is used as a substrate for the methylation. DNA methylation is is mainly a repressor mark. It mediates repression of a gene. If a promoter of a gene is methylated by the DNMTs, that means it is in repressed state. So it is the if methylation is present on the promoter, that means these genes are not going to be expressed. Methylation in mostly, if you see our genome, our whole genome, you can find plenty of the methylation, DNA methylation on centromeric region, transposons, telomeres, and repetitive elements, and these regions are highly methylated. Basically, if you consider the gene, a particular gene and promoter, basically, so approximately 70% of the promoter in the human genome are methylated, approximately. Okay, and and this methylation happens on a specific sequence that is at least have the 50% GC content, and it is about 550 base pair long, and these regions are called as CPG island. This is called as CPG island. So CPG islands are hot spots for the DNA methylation. So if a DNA sequence, if a promoter of any gene has CPG island, there is a possibility that it is regulated through methylation. So DNA methylation is required for the several important biological processes like heterochromatin maintenance, transcriptional silencing, tissue-specific gene expression, chromosome stability, cell differentiation, genomic imprinting, X chromosome inactivation, aging, and carcinogenesis. Other than these phenomena, there are several biological processes which are controlled through DNA methylation. So now, so DNA methylation is mediated by I don't know. I don't know, Aranim. I don't know what to do. Uh, why I'm not audible? Am I audible to everyone?
Yes, yes, sir.
So Arunim is saying Arunim is saying he's not audible. I'm not audible. I'm not sure. You have to look after. Hello. Can I move forward? Yes. Okay. Okay. So DNA methyltransferase are several types. So these DNA methyltransferases are proteins that mediates that are writer for the DNA uh, for the methyl group on the DNA. So DNA methyltransferase are writer of the DNA methyl group on the DNA. Okay, and basically there are four different types of the DNMTs. Inside they are called as DNMTs, DNMT3A, DNMT3B, DNMT1, DNMT2, and DNMT3L also. So DNMT3A and 3B perform de novo methylation. That means if you have a double-stranded DNA, okay, and if you incubate this with the DNMT3A and 3B and along with the S-adenosyl methionine as a substrate, this enzyme can methylate both the strand. So that means any new methylation is called as DNA methylation. Okay. Suppose you have a double-stranded DNA inside a cell, and the double-stranded that particular double-stranded DNA is methylated at both the strands. When the cell divides, then this DNA has to replicate. So if the DNA is replicated, okay, if the DNA is replicated, one strand of of the double-stranded DNA is going to be distributed in the progeny cells, in which only one of the strand will be methylated. So originally both the in original cell both the DNA strand were methylated. Then how the methylation is maintained through the cell division, and that happens through the DNMT1, DNA methyltransferase 1. So this DNMT1 and 2 are basically involved in the maintenance of the methylation. The fifth protein is called as DNMT3 and DNMT3L. Basically, DNMT3L interact with the DNMT3A and 3B to facilitate the methylation. So basically, if if the DNMT3A and 3B and 3L is present in a complex, so this complex will methylate a double-stranded DNA in more efficient manner compared to the DNMT3A and DNMT3B dimer. So I said that the DNA methylation is a repressive bond. So if any promoter is methylated, it has a methyl group on it, that means it will be in the repressors. Now we look at the mechanistically how a gene is going to be repressed. what is the mechanism? What is the mechanism that maintain it in a complete repressed state? So if you see here in the left side of this image, okay, so is unmethylated and it has a acetyl group that's shown in a yellow color. Okay, that is shown in the yellow color. So acetyl group is present on the histone, and this gene is continuously transcribed. So if a DNA methyl transferase works on this gene that is already transcribing, so what will happen? Methylation will make a heterochromatin kind of the situation, and the RNA polymerase cannot bind and transcription will be silenced. Basically, basically this DNA methylation is recognized by another class of the protein. This is called as methyl binding protein. So this methylated DNA will be bound by the protein called as MBPs, and one of the MBP is MECP2 that is shown here. So if the MECP2 is bound to the methylated DNA, RNA polymerase cannot bind to the DNA and cannot initiate the transcription. Furthermore, once the MECP protein binds, it recruits the SYN3A and HDACs. So these are the histone deacetylase complex we are going to discuss in detail, and this is basically remove the acetyl group from the histones and further contribute in the repression of a particular gene. So basically, what I'm trying to say here is trying to tell you about the mechanism how a DNA methylation of a active gene leads to the repression of that particular kind of the gene. That particular kind of the gene. So another thing I want to highlight here is all the DNMTs are written here, and the one that is recognized. So most recognized this methylation site is called as methyl binding protein. Uh, methyl binding protein. And
हुआ क्या, वो बना दिया मीडिया?
कल करना है
hello,
तुमको।
Aranim. Hello, hello.
यस सर।
Can you mute, man? तुम लोग बात कर रहे हो तो सुनाई दे रहा है, हमें सबको सुनाई दे रहा हूँ. हेलो हेलो ओके. So basically the DNA methylation is a repressive mark, and and these are the mechanism that works to repress. So here the DNA methyltransferase are the writers, and MECP2 proteins are the reader of the methylation mark. So initially I told you that there are 550 base pair sequences that are present on the promoter region. That is called as CpG island. And basically, if a promoter is if the component of a promoter is CpG island, that means this promoter may be regulated by through the methylation based epigenetic mechanism. So in the genome-wide analysis, you will find this is one of the representative picture. Here is methylation mainly occurs on the promoter region on CpG island, and it is less prominent in the gene body. So gene body means the region that is generally transcribed. Okay, so and we know that the methylation is involved in the gene silencing. So the methyl group can be also removed. This has been shown basically in the 2009 only with a family of the enzymes that is called as 1011 translocation. This is called a TET, 1011 translocation group of the protein. They are able to remove the methyl group. So this TET group of the protein will work as a eraser epigenetic molecule. So we talk about the DNA methyltransferase, that is writer for the methyl group. We talk about the methyl binding protein, those are reader for the methylation epigenetic mark. And the third group is a eraser of the methylation, and these are the TET family of the protein. Right, these are basically the dioxygenases. For example, if you see here in the top image, there is, if the methyl group is added at the 5th position here, so that means cytosine is converted into 5-methyl cytosine. This methyl group can be removed by the TET 1, 2, 3. Any of them one can remove, and it is basically, it does not completely remove, but it changes this methyl group to the hydroxyl group, and eventually during a cell division, this is not recognized by the DNMT1 DNMT1. So we will talk in more detail how TET works. So that so basic what it does is, what TET family does is, it converts the methyl group into 5-hydroxy methyl cytosine, or even different kind of the other forms. For example, you see here how the TET group, how the TET family of the protein regulates the particular gene. So it can regulate through two mechanisms. One is passive mechanism, another one is a active mechanism. For example, in a passive mechanism is basically the replication dependent. For example, this is a DNA sequence which is methylated, and this methylation is happened through the DNMT1. It can be any one, that is like the DNMT3A, 3B, DNMT1, 2, or DNMT3L. Okay, this what happens if this methyl group has to be removed during replication through the passive DNA methylation process. TET enzymes works here and convert the methyl group in the 5-hydroxy methyl cytosine, like this, using this reaction here. 5 TET convert the methyl group into 5-hydroxy methyl group. During replication, this methyl group is generally, this methyl group is recognized and maintained through DNMT1, but if the 5-hydroxy methyl cytosine is not recognized by DNMT1, and during replication, when the cell goes under cell division, this methylation is diluted. So this is called as passive DNA methylation, DNA demethylation. Another process is a active DNA demethylation. For example, if a methyl group is by converted by TET into 5-hydroxyl methyl cytosine, then the same thing can be recognized by the two other different enzymes. So it may be further recognized by the TET only, and through carboxylation process it can be removed. Okay, or through deamination process with these enzymes it can be removed. And finally, through the DNA repair process, this methylation is completely removed. So what we discussed till now is the different kind of the methylation and demethylation process. For example, the DNMT1s are epigenetic writers. DNA methyltransferases are epigenetic writers. Methyl binding proteins are epigenetic readers, and Tet family of the proteins are of the DNA methyl group eraser. So these are epigenetic erasers. The second kind of the modification that we are going to discuss here is the histone modification. So what is the histone modification? So we know that the histone is packaged with the DNA, and histone, like I said earlier, during packaging, N and C terminal of the histone is comes out of the nucleus from the core region. It comes out of the, for example, if you see this image, so this, now you can see here the green color, blue color, sky blue color, and yellow color. These are the different histones. But if you see their tails, where they are going, so and suppose this is the one shows in the red color and the mustard color. These two are the shown in the DNA. So basically, the histone tails are either coming out of the DNA through this pathway in this way, that's shown in the one that is shown in the blue color, or it directly interacts with the different part of the DNA. It might also it can come through the double stranded DNA. So any histone, anything that compromise the interaction between the DNA and this histone protein can lead to the loosening of the DNA. So DNA might get free if you get any kind of the modification. So there are several different kind of the post-translational modification through which a histone tail can go through. For example, this is acetylation, where the acetyl group is attached on the histone tail. Methylation, where the methyl group can be attached through the histone. Phosphorylation, you guys know it. And the ubiquitination, that the 7-kD protein ubiquitin can be added on the histone tail, and that drastically affect the interaction between the DNA and the histone. And this is the way it regulates the different kind of the phenomena. Basic residues are generally a hot spot for the methylation and acetylation. Now you can see in this image, lots of the lysine residue and arginine residue are methylated or acetylated. Okay. Ubiquitination is generally happens on the H2B or H2A. It is not known yet to be present on the H3 or H4 histone. H3 and H4 histones are major site for the acetylation and the methylation. And these kind of the modifications regulate several important biological processes. For example, histone acetylation regulates transcription, DNA repair, replication, condensation, etc. Lysine methylation regulates the transcription and repair process. In the lysine, if one methyl group is added, may have a different impact compared to the 2 and 3. So monomethyl may have a different effect on the transcription than dimethyl or trimethyl. Similarly, arginine can undergo monomethyl, dimethyl, and trimethyl. Serine and threonine is well known for the phosphorylation process. This also control the transcription, repair, DNA repair, and the DNA condensation process. And finally, the ubiquitination, lysine ubiquitination are H2A and H2B. They both regulate the transcription and DNA repair process. So if this how now the question is how this modification contribute to this transcription to the transcription or DNA repair process or any kind of the biological process that we discussed in the earlier slide. And the although the mechanism for all the histone modifications are not known, it is still under investigation, but some of them are known. For example, S3K4 trimethylation directly interacts with the RNA polymerase C-terminal, and that's how it facilitates the transcription. But if you see the this slide particularly in which the histones tails are directly interacting with the DNA at some points, so, at different points. So any modification that compromise this interaction between the histone tails and the DNA can regulate the can basically regulate the transcription or DNA repair or other biological processes. So what is time? So maybe we can go through the histone acetylation also, then I'll stop. So the histone acetylation, what is the histone acetylation process in which generally histone lysine and lysine on the histone H3 and histone H4 tails are undergoes the histone acetylation process. So if a gene, if a histone tail is or if a gene is generally acetylated, if it is acetylated, that means it is the transcription is on. That means acetylation is a histone mark that facilitates the transcription. And the another way, so and this acetylation process is mediated by a class of the enzyme that is called as histone acetyltransferase or histone acetylases. And these are again the epigenetic writer. So the histone acetyltransferase or histone acetylases are the epigenetic writer. This if you see this image here, this acetyl group can be also removed from the tail of the histone H3 and H4, and this is mediated through another class of the enzyme that are called as histone deacetylases. So it is represented as HDACs. So HAT are the proteins that add the acetyl group on the histone tail, and HDACs are the proteins that remove the acetyl group from the from a nucleus, from a histone tail. And as I told earlier, the acetylation always turn on the transcription, so it facilitate the transcription. And so the HATs are transcriptional activator. They facilitate with the transcription factor in order to activate any gene. But HDACs are basically, they remove the acetyl group, so they generally involve in the turning of a transcription, turning off transcription of a gene. So you can see here in an image, if a nucleosome is deacetylated, transcription is turned off, and if a gene is acetylated, then the transcription is on. Now the question is how the addition of just a small group on the tail on the histone tail can activate or repress the transcription. And the answer here will be in this region here. Suppose under normal condition, under normal condition where the histone is not acetylated, we know that the most of the lysine and arginines are the positive charge, and the DNA is negative charge. And histone acetylation generally happens on the lysine group of the histones. So that means under normal condition, lysine group interacts with the phosphate of the DNA, and you can imagine a situation that is shown in the left side. So that means tails are tightly bound with the DNA through the ionic interaction. But once the DNA, once the lysine is methylated, acetylated, so you added acetyl group in there, and now the lysine is acetylated. That means you added a negative charge on the histone tail. So this negative charge basically break the interaction between the DNA and the histone tails, and now the histone tails are open and DNA is free to move. This is the one of the mechanism that through which uh, through which we can explain how acetylation is a activation mark and deacetylation is a repression mark. So basically what it does, the basically under normal condition the DNA interacts with the histone, DNA interacts with the histone, and it forms a compact structure like this. But once the lysine because of the charge interaction, once the lysine group is acetylated on the histone tail, then this interaction breaks and the DNA is loosened. Okay, and now the DNA can be transcribed. So this is the one of the known mechanism that is known through which an acetylation process is involved in activation or repression of a gene. So there are several different types of the Hartmann histone acetyltransferase. These are basically belong to the GNAT group, MIST group, or P300 CBP group. They are further divided. There are several different kind of the uh, enzymes that belongs to the HAT or GCN5, PCAF, HAT1, ELP, HPA. Similarly, MAF, MAR, TIP60, and P300 CBP are the another one. So these are the different kind of the enzyme that has different substrate specificity. So that means PCAF only acetylate the S3. HAT1 can acetylate both S3 or H4, and like the MARF can only acetylate S3. P300 can acetylate both of them, S3 and H4. Okay, so they all regulate the regulate the biological transcription of any gene in cell type specific manner. For example, in some cases there may be requirement of only S3 acetylation of the S3 only. In other case, maybe S3 and S4 both are required to activate a gene, right? So this all depends on the which kind of the cell type you are studying. So this again shows that the so okay. So till now we talk about the different kind of the histone acetyl transferase. Now we talk about the opposite. So histone acetyl transferase is an epigenetic reader, and histone deacetylase are the epigenetic eraser. So that means hashtag histone acetyl is removes the acetyl group from the histone. Here also we are trying to prove that the epigen this is basically the way through which the epigenetic process is reversible. So that means if a DNA methyl transferase can add the methyl group on the DNA, if a histone acetyl transferase can add the uh, acetyl group on the histone tail, then other enzymes, for example, TET can remove the methyl group, and histone deacetylase can remove the acetyl group from the histone tail. So these are the two antagonistic processes, and because of these enzymes, because of the availability of this such kind of the mechanism, we say that the epigenetic process are reversible. Okay, so HDACs are also four different types of the belongs to four, can be divided into four different classes. This is called as class 1, 2, 3, 4, and they all are basically they are histone HDAC 1 to 11. There are different kind of the histone deacetylase that works to remove the acetyl group from the histone tail. HDAC or even HAT, they work alone also, but mostly in different types of the cells, they are present in the protein complexes. So they do not work alone, but they work in a protein complexes. For example, HDAC1 can be the part of the REST and core SYN3A complex. HDAC2 is also a part of the REST and core and SU3. So generally HDAC1 is present along with the S2 in most of the complexes. HDAC3 is also present in the different types of C. So they don't work alone. They work in complex with the other protein, and other protein in the complex help them to target them at a particular site. So if you see a complete process of a gene that is regulated through the methylation and acetylation process, then you can see in this slide. So for example, this is an active gene. So the active genes has the acetyl group on the top. So the transcription factor and RNA polymerase and histone acetyl transferase come together and make this particular gene active. So if you want to repress this gene, the methyl transferase, DNA methyl transferase can comes here. The histone methyl comes and add the methyl group on this. This methyl group is recognized by the methyl binding protein, and at the same time, the HDAC complex can remove the acetyl group and and remove the acetyl group. And now, because of the removal of the acetyl group, you the proteins present there induces the compaction of the histone, compaction of that chromatin. Induces chromatin compaction in that gene, and this lead to the repression of the particular gene. So I will stop here, and I will take next class on Monday, not on this Saturday. Okay.